Let's head on over, though, to the country's biggest airport, that being OR Tambo International, because Flysafair passengers who had their flights cancelled will get a full refund from the airline should they be unable to rebook or even reschedule their flight. The airline cancelled 26 flights due to 200 pilots going on strike over salary increases. Ntokozo Khumalo has been at the OR Tambo International Airport tracking developments and joining us now. Then, Ntokozo, do we have any full word regarding any further cancellations to be anticipated? And what exactly have passengers been, of course, their biggest cry has been about with regards to rescheduling or rebooking?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Arabile. I've been looking at the board here to my right, just looking whether we are seeing any more cancelled or delayed flights. In the morning, there were quite a few delays for Flysafair, particularly flights going off to Durban. But looking at the board now, Cape Town about to board, Durban about to board, but there is a delay for the East London flights, 3:45. But as we heard it from Kirby Gordon, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for the airline, no more cancellations that are expected. And he said that the reason it had to be 26 flights that were cancelled is because 5 more pilots who were originally not meant to be part of the strike action then late last night saying that they would be joining the strike action. And of course, the pilots not picketing at the airports, Arabile, but rather staying away. And originally, the trade union representing some of those pilots, Solidarity, saying that the strike action was actually meant for 1 day, but the airline locking out pilots for a week, which means that even if they did want to return to work, they are unable to. So passengers now really penciling in strike action for about the next 2 weeks, as we heard the reports earlier on. But indeed, Gordon did say that a full refund would be given to passengers who are unable to reschedule or rebook. Some of the passengers that we did speak to in the morning who were part of those that did face the cancellation, but at around 11 o'clock, it seems the airline had gotten into grips with that, with just the normal passengers going on to their flights. But the ones that did face those cancellations were unsure of the next step to take, saying that they didn't quite get that communication from the airline, despite it saying that communication was sent, and in the morning they were scrambling to know what direction to take next. And I did speak to one, Arabile, who is an entrepreneur who was then looking to also, after hopefully securing a meeting with a client, get a few days of relaxation in Cape Town with family. So she was saying to us she's now having to reschedule that meeting. So it's not just the cost of having to rebook a ticket, but really maneuvering your day around. So let's hear what that passenger that I spoke to earlier this morning had to say, Arabile.
So it's a typical Blue Monday. Absolutely no one's informed you. You stand in the queue. They tell you, okay, you can board at this gate. You go through security. When you get to your boarding gate, it's been open for 5 minutes and then they've already closed it. So you've missed your flight. You've got to rebook, and how do you get another flight?
So, Arabile, we are heading towards the next peak time for the airline. Of course, that morning peak time between 5 and 7 o'clock is where we really saw a lot of the traffic as people were waiting then for that direction on their cancelled flights. But since about 11:30, 12 o'clock, which is another peak period for the airline, it did seem that the airline had gotten to grips with either rescheduling or rebooking those passengers who were on those flights that were cancelled. One of the passengers that I spoke to said she was then put on a lift flight when she could not be rebooked for around the same time or rescheduled for around the same time, then put on a lift flight, Arabile. And remember, there were also issues earlier on this morning with the Tembisa protest that really added added on to the queues that we saw this morning, and that was due to one of the security personnel here for the airport company South Africa letting us know that that was due to then that protest action in Tembisa, a lot of staff residing in Tembisa, and they were therefore unable to come to work. So that's why in the morning there were a lot more tills that were open, or a lot of the tellers for the check-ins that were open because a lot of the staff could not make it into the airport, as well as some delays at the border gates. But that seems to since have been cleared, Arabile, and things seem to be moving along. And when we checked in on the queue, or in the queue now, we didn't find any passengers that had their flights cancelled. These are the other flights, the over 100 flights for the day that have continued on as scheduled. Arabile.
Ntokozo, thank you so much for bringing us that update. Then, of course, a whole lot of flights being delayed, suspended, and hopefully rescheduled and rebooked in many ways. Flysafair is saying indeed that they would be able to help refund a whole lot of those if you're unable to rebook or reschedule your flight. There are 200 pilots on strike. We'll certainly get the latest on that as the day continues and into tomorrow.